All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? So today we're going to be going over the MetalFab. I want to give everybody a minute and thank y'all for joining. I'm Mike. I own Diode Designs LLC. I've taught people all over how to do laser engraving and whatnot. You've probably seen me post up in the groups. Just wanted to start off today with some with a PowerPoint. We'll go ahead and jump into that. Go over a little bit of what this MetalFab can do. So today we're going to be giving away a $300 discount on the MetalFabs, and we're also going to be giving away some gift cards just for joining. So be sure to participate in the chat, and we'll go ahead and get this started. So again, I'm Mike Smerka. I own Diode Designs LLC. I do custom laser engraving, custom laser education. I was an IT engineer for years before this, and now I just do laser engraving full time. Today we'll be having an exclusive discount for the entire duration of the live. You can get $150 off of just the MetalFab, the Welder, by using code LiveMetalFab150, and you can get $300 off the combo of the CNC and 1200 watt or the 800 watt with the CNC using LiveMetalFab300. This is only good for the next week. And we will also be giving away 3 $50 gift cards and 3 $100 gift cards in some lucky draws as we go along here. So in this time, I want to remind everybody that the prices will be going up on the MetalFab units on June 24th. They'll be going up roughly $500 across the board, and then on the MetalFab with the CNCs as the combos, they'll be going up $1,000. So now would be the time to order during this live stream or this week, because you get that extra discount and you get that best pricing. On today's agenda, we're going to be covering the principles of the safety and how the welder works. We're going to be going over some key features. We're going to do a welding demo, a CNC demo, and then we'll do a live Q&A and wrap up. And we'll do some lucky draws along the way. So as you can see on the screen, the way the laser works is you have your laser tip, your welding tip, your focusing lens, and your galvo scanner. That's all encased in your laser gun. That's what you're going to be using to do your welding, as well as the part that is inside of the CNC that actually produces the beam, that actually shines the beam on the metal and does all the work, does all the cutting. So one thing I do want to stress on, and I will mention a couple times, is safety. Lasers are inherently dangerous if not used properly. A lot of the light that can actually harm you, you cannot see. It's infrared and ultraviolet. Both of those can cause blindness and a lot of damage to you if you're not safe with it. So one thing you really always want to be careful of is always have your safety glasses on, especially when you're welding. And if there's anybody else in the room too, you want to make sure that they are wearing their eye protection. Some other considerations: when I'm welding, I usually wear my welding gloves. And if you go on the xTool website, they actually just came out with an awesome new welding helmet that does auto darkening. I found that to be a lot better than just the goggles themselves. When the welder kicks on, what it does is it automatically darkens, so you can still see, but it doesn't make it so it's so bright that your eyes hurt watching it. All right, so what is the MetalFab? The xTool MetalFab, it's an all-in-one metal fabrication unit. You can do laser cutting and welding all with one unit. It has dual cameras, which if you're familiar with like the xTool product line, like the P2, you have the wide angle camera as well as the camera that's right on the gantry. And if you're familiar with the P2 at all, you know that the camera on the gantry, the close view camera, is very accurate, especially on the MetalFab. They used a very high quality camera, and I have found it to be like dead on when it comes to the trying to cut and even see little minor details. You're able to see even little rust spots in the metal. If you're familiar with XCS, you already have an advantage too, because XCS is the software that you use with the MetalFab. What's awesome about that is you can go from one project or keep one project open and use your same designs you would on your P2 or your F1 or F1 Ultra. Open those up, all your DXFs and SVGs that you already have saved as projects. You can open those up right in XCS and cut them right on the MetalFab. There's also, again, they have a lot of safety features. They have 10 safety features that they're going to point out in the next slide. So, like most lasers, it does have an emergency stop switch. And if you're familiar with the xTool lasers, it does have the USB safety key. Once that's inserted, you're good to go. And I just leave that in. But if you have kids around or somebody else can access the machine, you could always take that out and that will disable the machine. The laser gun itself has a 2-stage trigger with grip detection. So you actually have to depress both of the triggers in order for it to fire. And it also has an electric safety like inner loop. It would be similar if you're familiar with like a MIG or a TIG welder to like the grounding wire, except because this is a laser welder, you don't need a ground, but it does function the same way. For that, you need to have, that needs to be in contact with the item you're welding while you're welding in order for the laser to fire. And the last thing is the 3-zone temperature monitoring. That is built into the laser itself. And if anything were to overheat or anything were to go wrong in that sense, it would shut itself down. The CNC portion, like most lasers, it has a locking door on the top where you cannot open the door and the lid must be closed to start. The bottom drawer must also be closed and properly seated. Now, one thing I have done in the past is I haven't closed it fully before, and then I've realized that, well, the laser won't start that way. The exhaust fan also must be on to start because when you're cutting metal, you don't want to be breathing in the exhaust fumes from any of your metal, especially with stainless. Stainless, when you cut it, it's carcinogenic. You definitely want to exhaust that outside. It has the OD5 Plus light filtering cover, which the CNC is basically has the built-in safety protection that you would have in your glasses or your welding helmet, just built into the cover. And the CNC also has an emergency stop button. You just simply press that button and the machine will stop. So now we're going to go ahead and do a welding demo. I'm going to go ahead and show you just how easy it is to switch over from the welding from the CNC to the welding. We'll go ahead and jump and do that real quick. All right. So to switch from the CNC to the welder, you're going to want to turn your machine off. Like that. I'm going to go over here and disconnect my air. And you're simply going to undo the gun. You're going to undo the gun. Pop out these clips just like that. Pop this off. And there's your welder. It's free and you're ready to go ahead and get welding. You'll also need to go ahead and switch over the tip. So this is our CNC cutting tip. So we'll just slide that out, just like that. And we'll set that aside. Put our gun in here. And we'll go over to our wire feeder. And this is our welding tip. You can see that this is where the wire will feed. Let me adjust that camera just a touch. There we go. That should be a little better. So this is your welding tip. You can see where the wire is going to feed right out as you're welding. This is going to be your filler wire. You're going to just insert the tip of this right into the gun. All right. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and adjust that microphone up too for y'all. All right, hopefully that's a little better for y'all now. And y'all can hear me just a little bit better. All right. So, now that we have our welding gun here, it's all assembled. It just simply clips in here just like that. We're ready to go ahead and do some welding. Our next step, you might notice behind me, I have this big tank. This is our welding tank right here. We're going to go ahead and cut that gas on and switch that over. All right. So hopefully that audio is getting a little better. I do have the microphone right here, and it is as loud as it can go. So turn that up some. As you can see on our welding tank here, we have our flow meter. This is what we're going to use to regulate our gas flow. When we're welding, that's important. When we're welding, I'm going to be using an argon CO2 mix. It's a 75-25 mix. You can get that at your local welding store. These tanks you can also get there. My tank, instead of buying it, I just leased it because I didn't want to do the maintenance with the tank. So, move that camera a little closer here. So this is our xTool welding helmet. I'm going to go ahead and throw this on, and we'll get to do some welding here. Some key things when you're welding, you have to have your metal materials that you're going to be welding together, some safety gloves, and your helmet. Now, on the welder itself, there's different settings depending on the material you're going to be welding. And all you got to do is you have to enable your wire feeder and enable lasering on it. So we're going to go ahead and put our safety goggles on, and then we'll go ahead and do some welding. Get you all zoomed in on it. And now, with everything ready, we'll go ahead and weld these two plates together. And I'll show you just how easy it is to do some welding with this machine. If you can operate a caulk gun or a glue gun, you could probably handle this welding. The key things are you don't want to go ahead and force the gun. or drag the gun. When the wire feeds, you want to kind of just let it push you along. You want to go ahead, you have buttons on the top of this gun here. These are your wire feeder buttons. You can go ahead and push it and it'll feed some wire. You can push the other button and it'll retract some. So we're going to go ahead and do this welding. So you want to keep the gun at about a 45 degree angle. Set your plates just like that. Put your mask down. And there it is, just like that. You got a solid weld right there. We can go ahead and do the other side also. And there we go. I accidentally just welded it to my table just a little bit there. A little bit of live action. Pop that up. All right. So as we can see on the bottom here, you got full penetration right through the entire way. There's our welds. I didn't deburr the material, which is important. If you deburr the material, that's where you can see where it skipped. So you do want to have some smooth edges to get some good welds in there. But what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'm going to put this in the vise and we can go ahead and bend it back and forth and see if we can get it to go. No. We ended up bending the metal, but we didn't end up breaking the weld. So, there y'all have that. It's just that easy to do welding. And that is 2mm carbon steel that I just welded together. So now, we'll go ahead and we could do these different joints. You could also do seam welding. There are, you could do the butt joint welding. The welding actually in the machine itself is customizable. And it also, if you're familiar with XES or any of the software itself, there's presets for the welder also. Now with those presets, it'll give you different materials such as galvanized steel, stainless steel, carbon steel. It will also give you materials like aluminum and different thicknesses from anywhere from 1 to 5 millimeters. And it'll also give you the options of which thickness of wire you're going to be using. And with all of those presets, you'll just select which ones you're going to be, what situation you have. So if you're doing 2mm carbon steel, you'll select that. And the welder itself will feed the wire at the correct speed and keep it the correct power and scan settings for a successful weld. Now, if you want to be advanced with it, and as you dial in different materials, you can also create your own custom settings for them too, which is really cool. You can also do things like tack welding and all sorts of other features, which we could show you guys on the screen a little later. One key thing about these is these are strong welds, but they have much less heat affected zones. Also, something that is a little bit different than the MIG or the TIG welding is the actual amount of material is a bunch less. It's substantially less that's actually left on the weld itself. However, you're still getting full penetration, and it is still just as strong of a weld. So now we can go ahead and jump and show the CNC. To do this, I'm going to show you a little bit. So go ahead and jump over right into XCS. All right. So in XCS, you'll see the kind of familiar screen you would expect. What we're going to need to do, though, I'm going to go ahead and, once we get this file set up, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys again just how easy it is to swap right back over into the CNC portion, so you guys can see how that works too. Some things I want to point out about XCS, though, if you go over here into the application menu, you can see you have some extra settings. I'll go ahead and move my camera out of it. So you have things like lead-in lines. So lead-in lines are important when you're doing thicker material. That's going to go ahead and create a start point line that goes into the metal. This way, once you actually get to what you actually want to cut, it has a nice clean cut and a clean finish. Now you could do lead-in lines that are inner or outer, meaning if the part that you're cutting out, say you were cutting out a circle, if you wanted to keep this part of the circle, the inside, you would do the lead-in line outside. So it would lead in this way, and then it would cut your circle. And if you wanted to just cut the circle out, and you didn't care about this, and this was the drop, you would do the lead-in line inner. And it would start here, and then do the circle, and it would drop the inner. So you're not messing up your material, but you're getting that nice clean cut. It also has features like smart nesting. Smart nesting, what it could do is it could go ahead and place objects on scrap material, for instance, for you. Or it could, if you have a bunch of smaller objects, say like earrings or small parts, what it could do is it could place those on the screen or on the piece of metal, even if you put in a scrap piece, or you can arrange it by the size of your piece of metal, and it'll go ahead and fit those in there in such a way that it saves your material or places it on little curves or whatever little pieces of metal that you do have in there. And it uses, it does this very, very effectively. Some other things that I want to point out when you go into the advanced settings, you could go ahead up here and you have your whole preset library. Now, the preset library actually works really well. I have tested almost all of these, and it does cut extremely well. I mean, it cuts through all of the materials that it says that are listed in here. Anything from these 0.5 millimeter stainless, some 0.5 millimeter brass, all the way up to 4 millimeter aluminum. It has presets for 4 millimeter galvanized, 5 millimeter carbon steel, and even some titanium, which I haven't tested the titanium yet, but every other setting works, so I'm sure it does work just fine. Today we're going to be cutting 1 millimeter carbon steel on it, and we're going to cut out this deer scene right here. This is just a DXF file that I have created. We'll go ahead and size it up just a little bit here. And you guys can see just how quick it's going to cut this once we get this rolling here. So to get that view up, I'm going to go ahead and switch over. I'm going to switch over this camera real quick, or switch over the laser gun back to the CNC mode and turn that machine on, and then we'll connect over and I can show you guys the refreshed view as well as the capture close view and see how accurate that is to line up. And so I was just told we're actually going to be doing a lucky draw. So if you guys want to join the lucky draw, comment the word MetalFab. And while I'm switching that gun over, I'll let you guys all comment the MetalFab, and then we'll go ahead and we'll pick some people from that. I'm going to go switch this over while y'all are doing that. So as you can see, all you're going to do to get back to using your CNC, insert this right back in the same way. All right. So we're going to go ahead and let that machine power on. While that's powering on, we're going to do these lucky draw winners. And Abby is going to help me with that. Abby, do we have our winners? Okay, awesome. Okay, the winner is going to be announced right in the live chat. I was just told. Here we go. So while that's going on, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you guys just, how to connect to the machine. It's just as simple as any of the others. You can see my list of machines here. We'll go ahead and just connect this MetalFab unit. I have mine connected on my wireless network. We'll go ahead and refresh the background. And we can see all the little metal scrap parts I have in the bottom of my machine. We've been doing a lot of cutting, a lot of work with it lately. So some other features that you're going to need to remember that the xTool MetalFab has is the vibe-free cut. That's easy to set up. Once you get your machine and your CNC set up in your shop and you level it out with the leveling feet, you'll calibrate it by going to device settings. And in device settings, you'll see active vibration compensation. And you'll just click start there, and then it will just run through the machine. If you're familiar with 3D printers, they do that too, where it'll kind of just shake itself back and forth. And it will, this way, when it's actually cutting and moving really quickly, it'll compensate for the vibration that way. This is also the menu where you would do your welding light and your torch calibration. And you could also calibrate your cameras if, when you get them, they're a little off. They send a little, it's a black and white like checkered test grid. You put that on the laser bed, go ahead and just calibrate that, and it kind of does it on its own. So we'll go ahead and do the capture close shot now, just to see, just to show you how accurately it does this metal here. How clear the camera is also. So there's our close view, and you can see we can zoom all the way in. And you could even go see the little bit of burr I have on the edge from cutting that metal earlier today. So we'll go ahead and zoom around. And I know we're dead on our screen. All nice. So here. Go ahead and remove that close view. Go ahead and set this to cut. And you can see I'm just using the 1 millimeter carbon steel, the base settings that are included with it. Our next step that we're going to do, the xTool MetalFab has a capacitive sensor. This is what's going to help keep it that exact distance from the material, even if it's going over a curve or you have some unevenness in the metal. It'll actually account for that. And I have had it where I haven't had one end of some very thin metal supported, and it's actually kept that, it actually was able to maintain the perfect distance even when I didn't have that end supported. And the cut still came out perfect. So it saved it even when I made a mistake at the beginning there, when I first got this machine. It also does have, if you're familiar with the older xTool ones, like the D1s, it also does have a red dot for framing, so it'll actually go around and you'll be able to see physically on the material to make sure you're staying on the material. So that's a familiar feature that some of you are aware of. It definitely comes in handy. So the next step, I'm gonna go ahead and plug in my air here, and we'll go ahead and process this. So for most of my cutting lately, while you can use nitrogen and you can use different gases, I've only really been using the xTool, the air compressor and the air dryer, and using compressed air for almost all of my cuts. And we're getting cuts that are similar. I mean, I've cut that out of some stainless. You can see this is not cleaned up. This is how it came off using just compressed air. And another thing I wanted to mention before we get this running here is I cut this circle out of this disc. And one thing you'll notice is the lack of kerf. It is, if you're familiar with a plasma table or anything like that, the amount of kerf here is almost none, where on a plasma table, you're losing almost a 1/16 of an inch. So next, we'll go ahead and calibrate our capacitive sensor. We'll click over. And all we're going to do is we're going to click anywhere on our metal. And what it's going to do is it's going to drop down. So with that pulled up, we'll go ahead and hit process. We're going to go ahead and select our ordinary nozzle. 2 millimeters. We'll hit start. I'm gonna go ahead and now close the lid and get that camera set up so y'all can see just how fast this thing is gonna work. All right. All right, the AI camera took over then. Go ahead and jump back. All right, let me make sure that that's all cleaned up real quick. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. I realized I didn't have the that microphone enabled. I accidentally hit mute on that. So what happened was it hit a dirty spot on the metal when it was doing the calibration. Now, if you have rusty metal or any kind of dirt on it, it's not going to get a very accurate reading. So you do want to make sure that you do have some clean metal so it actually can properly calibrate the capacitance. All right, sorry about that. It was it's giving me a little error with the capacitance because I must have just had some dirt on the tip there, so it wasn't getting an accurate reading. Go ahead and try that one more time here. So it's always important to keep your laser clean, and sometimes when you're switching the heads back and forth, if you're not cleaning them in between, it will go ahead and fail on that calibration. Huh. All right, that camera should update in a second there. There. All right. Sorry about that delay, guys. Sometimes when you go ahead and restart it, you need to get a little reboot in there. If this is I've done probably 100 demos so far, and this hasn't happened, but because this is alive with all of y'all here, it went ahead and gave me a little trouble just for fun. It's not a good live event unless something doesn't go as planned. So let's go ahead. Should go ahead and do that calibration right now. And there we go. As you can see, like, this is no way to fake this. This is real time. This is just how fast this laser moves around when cutting. And this is actually cutting 1mm carbon steel. As it's going along here, all we're using right now is the air compressor and the air dryer for compressed air. That's going to help with that's going to be basically effectively our shielding gas for that. It's going to be our air assist, which is going to keep the dross down, which the dross is the so the air dryer. And once this is done, I'll go ahead and poke over and show y'all guys the air dryer and air compressor too. It's just next to the machine. I'll let this finish up. So what happened there was it detected a collision with the laser head because of a piece that stuck up. So what it did is it stopped the process, let me clear that little piece that was sticking up so it could actually finish cutting. If you're familiar with CNCs, what would have happened is you would have broken the tip of your, you would have broken your bit right there instead, which you don't want to break your laser. So it's really good that it does have that built in where it does stop. I'm going to go grab this out and then we can show you all that. So, as you might notice, not all of the pieces fell out. That's because the kerf on a lot of this is so tight. All you'll need to do is go ahead, you just poke it out with your thumb, or you take a little screwdriver, and all these little pieces just poke right out. When there's that little bit of a gap, because there's that little bit of material removed, sometimes the intricate pieces do get stuck. Go ahead and pop that. One more to do. And there you have it. Just that easy, just that quick and easy. You made a sign. This sign is, I believe, 8 by 10. Yep, 8 by 10 inches, and it cut it just that fast. And again, that was just with just compressed air. So pretty impressive. So now we'll jump back over to that PowerPoint. So as you'll notice, for the CNC cutting and welding, we're going to need some different gases, and there's going to be different gases, different PSIs, and different nozzles, depending on which material you're using here. What I've been doing is mostly between 2 and 5 millimeter, or 1 and 5 millimeter stainless steel, aluminum, and brass. And for that, I've been cutting at right around 87 psi or 0.6 megapascals. And I've been doing that with just my air compressor using the save gas nozzle. Now, the save gas nozzle is not what I was using there. I was using my ordinary nozzle because this was only 1 millimeter. But the save gas nozzle is a telescopic nozzle. It has a little piece that drops down, and it actually saves you from having to use the high pressure, which if you're using a gas like an argon, an oxygen, or nitrogen, you could use less of it, which in turn saves you a bunch of money. Now, when you're doing the welding, depending on what material you're welding, you'll have to use either nitrogen, argon, or an argon CO2 blend. And when you're cutting thick carbon steel, you'll want to use oxygen. And with that double layer nozzle and the focusing extension, that is an add-on, but that's what's going to get you those really nice, clean results on those edges when you're doing this that thick carbon steel. You could save this screenshot and save this chart here if you'd like, or I can get that posted for y'all later. So again, you could use this for sheet metal fabrication, repair and maintenance, outdoor, home and garden. I've made metal signs for sports teams. I've made challenge coin blanks. I've made knife blanks. I've made a lot of lawn and garden kind of signage. I made some jewelry. I've actually cut a couple people's names out of metal and sent that to them. They've incorporated in jewelry. We've used it in river tables, all of that. So going back to that save gas nozzle, because we're using either free air or less air because we're using less pressure, we're saving a lot of money. And this is good for cutting up to 4 millimeter without any burr or any kind of residue or dross on the back. It cuts it. All right. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go jump over here. So, just wanted to show y'all. There's the air compressor right in the background right there. And right in front of it, that's the air dryer. Don't mind my mess. Like I said, I've been busy cutting a lot of metal. The cool thing about that air compressor, you could also Y it off, and then you could use that extra hose for whatever you wanted to use around your shop. It is a very high power and quick pressure buildup air compressor too, which is very helpful when you're doing constant duty things like metal cutting. All right. So let me show you guys real quick the connectors. I'll go ahead and pop my phone on here. So as far as the connectors go, it's just a quick release right here. And then this line just goes right into your air dryer. There's your air dryer. The cool thing is it has an auto purge function. So this is going to help. You can see I'll have a little bit of moisture in here. You can see you push the bottom on that. Now this one will look, yours will look a little different. So you can see you have a drain timer on there. Now that's going to go ahead and drain all your excess moisture out. And then that tube just goes right, that tube goes right into the front of the machine. Right there on a quick disconnect fitting. It just plugs right into that. So one other good thing that you're going to save money on is the coherent chipset. Now, because it uses the coherent chipset, these are proven to last 30% longer than some of the other competitors, and it offers a higher heat dissipation, and you could use it in a wider temperature range. So you'll get over 10,000 hours of life expectancy, and that's actual working time too, which, as you can see with that previous metal cutting job only taking 2 or 3 minutes, 10,000 hours is going to lead to a lot of fabricated metal. So as you can see, compared to the pricing of an industrial solution, which some of the machines I have worked with in the past at my previous job, they are over, some of the machines I have worked with personally have been over $1 million. I used to work for a large metal fabrication company where we did all of the stainless steel production for a lot of the major fast food organizations. And some of those lasers didn't have some of the technology that this one even has, which is really cool. As you can see, it was easy to use and line everything up. It has the dual cameras. It is very space efficient. My machine is currently set up in an area. It's 4 feet, so about 48 inches wide. And then I have it set about 10 or 11 inches off the wall, and then it's 48 inches deep. It has that 8-inch exhaust coming off the back, and that's what saves your breathing right there. But you can see that in 30 seconds I could switch between welding and laser cutting on the CNC, so it doesn't take very long to jump between the two at all. And again, you could cut with such precision that is unmatched compared to like a plasma cutter or any other plasma or welding situation that I've been in, that I've seen. And now we'll do the FAQ. So now I'm going to have to jump into the Facebook chat so I could hopefully see some of these questions. Let me go ahead and get on this chat so I can see now I can see your questions. All right. I think you recommended an 8-inch. Yeah, I did, Jamie. I did recommend the 8-inch. If y'all want to go ahead and throw some questions up, now I can see all your questions as we go. And while you guys are asking those questions, let's go ahead and do a lucky draw. So just go ahead and comment the word welding. And we'll go ahead and do our final lucky draw of the day. So David and Steven, while everybody's doing the lucky draw, I'll go ahead and answer that question about the power. So for the actual welder itself, the power requirements, it is going to require for the 1200 watt, it's going to require a 30 amp 220 outlet. That will power the laser welder itself. And then the CNC portion just runs on a normal 110 outlet that you could plug into like a normal wall outlet. That only draws 2.5 amps. The 1200 watt actual welder draws roughly about 23 amps max. So you're going to need a 30 amp breaker and a 30 amp outlet on that. I have mine. As far as the compressor and the dryer, that is also a 220 system for me. So I have those both running on the same sub panel, but I just have it ran over there. I have those on 20 amp breakers because they're 220 and they don't make smaller. So I hope that answers your question about the I hope that answers the question about the power requirements there. While we get that lucky draw going. And I'm going to have Abby pick that winner for me here. We're going to get that done in a minute. If y'all have any questions, as soon as that, I'm going to scroll through this, make sure I didn't miss anything while that lucky draw was going. All right, so I did want to remind y'all real quick, they did have that coupon going on right now with that lucky draw going. So you will have an additional $300 off right now if you buy the CNC as well as the welding unit. Just use code LIVE MetalFab 300. And if you are just getting just the welder, they do have $150 off. Now, one thing I did forget to mention earlier, and I did want to point out, if you are getting the 800 watt the welder, the wire feeder is actually integrated into the unit itself, into the welding unit. And if you're getting the 1200 watt unit, it is a separate piece that sits kind of off to the side. You can see that's the wire feeder right there for the 1200 watt unit, and the welder is actually right behind it. It's similar to the size of like a gaming or a desktop PC. So, and your best deal on these are going to be right now because the price is going up next week. It will go up $500 for just the welder and $1,000 for the welder and CNC combo as of next week. Jacob, I did see your question about the oxidized aluminum. Yeah, that's going to be the same with any welding. However, you can use the laser to kind of clean it up first. What I typically have done is I've just taken a little bit of sandpaper, sanded it down a little bit, and I've welded it just fine. I haven't really run into any aluminum that I've welded yet that I haven't been able to get. I've done 1, 2, and 3 millimeter aluminum so far. And I've even done some diamond plate. I'll see if I could, I'll go ahead and do a video on my YouTube channel, and I'll go ahead and post that of the different aluminum that I've done. All right, so we went ahead and posted those 3 winners. Those are going to be posted right in the chat. Congratulations, y'all. Congratulations, Barbara, Chantelaine, and Jane Canfey, and Joseph Shaw. You each won a $100 xTool gift card. You can use that towards your new MetalFab unit. So I did also want to point out that if you did order the 1200 watt unit, they will start shipping right at the end of June. They did have those are coming in, and they will begin shipping, well, very soon. I think there's only 2 weeks left in June. So we did that lucky draw. Now, whatever questions y'all have on this MetalFab unit, go ahead and hit me with it. I seen Robert asked about the engraving. So they are testing some software updates right now. Obviously, the unit is not out yet. I do not have the newest software update because it hasn't been released yet, but they are working on doing some engraving, and I have seen a bunch of the engraving, and it does look great. Personally, I have done some scoring. If I could get Tyler to go grab my that metal build plate that I did for the F1 Ultra with our logo on it. I gotta go see where I put that. But I did do some scoring on it, and that did come out really good. Right there, below the blue plate. And the whole thing. Perfect. So, as you can see, while I didn't do any true engraving on it yet, but I did do some scoring on this build plate that I also did make on this MetalFab. So I did the measurements, cut that out, and yeah. So it did do some scoring. What do you keep in the toolbox on top? Well, let me show you what I keep in the toolbox on top. I'll go grab that for y'all. So in this fancy little toolbox, I keep my files as well as some calipers. And it has the little drawers where I keep my extra nozzles and my spare sacrificial lenses. And then in the bottom drawer, I just keep my rust removal tools and some extra little spare parts that I have laying around, just things I don't want to lose. These are for the telescopic, the save gas nozzle, which I could show y'all real quick. So this is the save gas nozzle. So this screws right into the CNC tip, and as you can see, it has this little piece that comes down. Kind of looks like a little tornado. So it'll actually it'll hover right on the material. Now, one thing I did want to point out, if you have a material that is susceptible to scratching, with this dragging on it, it can leave some little marks on it. So just be mindful of that, and you may be able to just do the back side of it. That's awesome. I'm glad, Tom, you're going to make your own. Awesome. The fume extraction outlet on the machine, yeah, I could see if I could show that still. Let me see if my camera is still alive. There you go. I'll show you guys real quick what it looks like. Looks like. So that's what that looks like. It's just like a little 8-inch duct hose going out the back, and I just have it ducting right outside. Ben, I don't have an external fan for the exhaust. I just use the fan that comes with it, and it's cool because in the settings you can customize how long that fan runs after your job. Carrie, xTool does offer training via the xTool squad. You could book appointments for live training and live demos with people with the MetalFab that are trained and have been using it a while, such as myself or some others. And that goes across for all machines. So the xTool squad program, you could book appointments with people. Some offer in-person training. You could do remote online training. It just depends on where you're at and who's around, local to you. You could book appointments right on the xTool website. Just go ahead and search for that xTool squad. Lou, I don't remember the exact dimensions of the shipping crate for the 1200 watt with CNC, but it was a standard pallet. And I do remember it was shipped on I had the liftgate service, and it was a standard pallet. I just brought it right in. It wasn't anything too crazy, and setup was really easy. Stacy, as far as the same design on thicker steel, it isn't actually that much slower. It is slightly slower, obviously, because it does need to cut all the way through, but it's surprisingly still pretty quick. I wish I could show you guys more about the engraving, but I simply don't have the abilities yet to show you guys that. So the engraving will be coming out as soon as possible. They're just doing some thorough testing with it just to make sure that it's not going to cause any damage to the machine, and it's optimized for all of our use. They just want to make sure that it's going to work really well. I did want to show you guys a couple of the other things that I've made along the way. Go ahead and turn that desk. So as you can see, that flag right here, this was cut out of some carbon steel, and we just painted it. This project took about 7 minutes, and then we just painted it. So now it's rust-proof, and well, it's ready to go. We're going to actually be donating this to raise money for veterans' families. Some other little projects that we did. We actually, I vectorized one of the members of one of my groups, his face. And I went ahead and cut this on the MetalFab. So as you can see, the detail that it can get, pretty intense. And this is just cut out of some carbon steel that rusted over a little bit. So I went ahead and used it for that project. We also cut some signs, such as for a fellow maker of mine, you may have noticed when we did the F1 Ultra video, and we have done the DTF printer video. So Bittner built, so I wanted to cut his logo out for him. I'm going to send that to him very short. Also, so you can see right here, this is one of my favorite projects to show just because of how detailed it is. This is actually out of 0.5 millimeter brass. So you can see how thin this is, but yet the level of detail that it could cut. That little part that's holding on the eye, I can't get my calipers in there to actually measure it, but it's less than 1 millimeter. The door width, Lou, yes, you will be fine with that. One of the beta testers, Tony, he actually brought it in through his doorway that was about that. Jane, I would love to do a rust removal demo real quick, but I actually don't have any rusty metal other than that photo, and I promised him I would send it to him as is. But I have posted some videos of the rust removal, and I could do another video and post it up in the group. I could show you guys. I could try to show you guys the pass through real quick. The pass through is pretty simple. And try to jump over to that window again. I understand when we go ahead and jump over to this audio, it's a little lower, but the pass through is right here. You can see it has these little bristles. And it has this clamp right here. You can see the pass through right there. And what you'll do, I'll show you on that piece we cut. You can see, passes right on through. So you just feed it on through. You could do as long as you want. And then clamp it on this side, or just let it pass on through. And it has a pass through all the way on the other side too. And you can see those little roller bearings right there to keep your metal as you go. Steven, so for me, I am almost always using the air compressor because I've been doing up to, a couple millimeters thick. I haven't really had a need. I'm not doing a whole lot of 10 millimeter carbon steel, like often or anything like that. But I haven't really had a need to use much gas at all. I did cut this Damascus steel little knife here during a demo one day. This is actual Damascus. It's about 5 millimeters thick. And I did start to put a little bit of I did clean it up on the edges a little bit, but that is real Damascus steel, and it cut through that no problem. The whole thing there. I still got to edge it up and put an actual blade on it. I don't have an easy way to explain how to take a photo and make it into a vector. But if you wanted to reach out to me, we can kind of walk you through that. Does it need to be in a climate controlled room? I keep mine in a climate controlled room. You don't want the actual welder itself. It's actually rated for a wide range of temperatures. Covered that in that slideshow. Let me see if I can get back to it. So from 20 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius is the optimal temperature. However, you can go from negative 10 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius, which I'm sure somebody in the chat can switch that over to Fahrenheit for me because I forgot how to do that calculation off the top of my head. No, the pass-through cannot be taller to get 3 inches through it. You're good to fit up to 10 millimeters through it. Daniel, will it cut niobium? I can't say on that. I have not ever used it. I would have to look up the alloy, and we'd have to see it. You can always book a material test with us also to see how that works. Tom, it does not have a conveyor system at all. You manually just kind of go ahead and push it through, and then you just go ahead and reline it up with the cameras. I've done that multiple times now, and it's worked perfectly. So, but they are also coming out with a software update that will allow you to break it into sections and allow you to transition through the pass-through much smoother. And Richard, you said ImageR. Literally, that is not how you create vectors. ImageR will not create vectors for you that way that I'm aware of. At least that's not what I used, and it wasn't that accurate. What is the TIR when cutting the material, and how wide is the kerf? So I actually showed this earlier, Tim. The kerf, I haven't been able to measure how wide the kerf is, but I could tell you it's almost nothing. I mean, that's the kerf right there. You can see I cut that out of that. Now, in the software itself, you can actually, there is an adjustment for the kerf, so you can account for that if you wanted to be dead on and precise. Yeah, so Jacob, the software actually does a really good job with placing the different objects you might have on the screen and for the nesting portion. It will actually place it, like if I were to cut a bunch of different pieces out and I just had a scrap piece of metal and I wanted to cut some little small parts out of it, it would actually place them in any areas they fit using the camera. It would do that automatically for you too, which is really cool. You could also make it nest a bunch of different objects in a certain size box, which you can actually you can customize. Say you had a 10-inch by 10-inch piece of sheet metal and you wanted to nest it all in there. You could definitely put those pieces in there, and the nesting does work really well to integrate that. So the wire from the power outlet, I would say that's about, mine is about like 8 or 9 feet. And then the actual, the unit, the welding gun, that I would say is about 15 feet. I could break out a tape measure and kind of do that. Later on, I could post that in the group. I don't have the exact spec. I haven't actually measured it. It was plenty long. Alan, it will come with a 220 plug installed, from what I understand. Although, because I was one of the early beta testers, I do not know which one yours is going to have. Mine might not have been the same, so I don't want to speak on which plug it's going to be because I did not have that exact plug. So I don't want to advise you incorrectly there. Can I use my M1 to cut screens? I don't think the MetalFab would be a good option to cut screen printing. I can't say I've tried personally, but I have a suspicion that it's not the right tool for the job for that. And no, Lou, I do not actually know what plug I can go. And then so xTool is not gonna. They'll provide a couple sample pieces. At least they've provided a couple sample pieces of mine as far as the metal goes. But you could talk to your local welding shop, and there's a lot of local sheet metal distributors you can offer. There's online marketplaces you can order metal off of. You can get some metals on Amazon. I would just say check locally. If you Google metal supply or welding supply store, I'm sure if you called your local welding supply store, they would be able to guide you along and tell you where the best place to get metal is, because obviously you don't want to pay for that shipping cost. Metal is heavy. And David, it will be a 30 amp plug for the 1200 watt unit. And yes, Dub C. So as far as the curvature, I'm gonna go grab a piece. So what I found out that it will cut through the curvature and it will follow it in an interesting way. It was my own fault. I didn't have the edge of this when I was cutting this out. I actually didn't have the edge of this brass supported, and as you can see, this brass is pretty flimsy. So the air actually pushed down on the metal, and it actually still maintained the proper distance and cut this still out perfectly. So that's how I accidentally tested it, and it worked great. Can the CNC fan be mounted on its side? So the CNC fan is actually built onto the back of the machine. It's like part of the machine. It's not a separate fan. So I wouldn't, I don't think you can mount, I don't think there is a way to mount it on its side because it's circular in a box. So I don't think that's a concern you guys would have. So another recommendation for the metal that I just thought about, because there's one real close to me, they have a metal recycling center right near my shop, actually, in an industrial area. It's called Clark Recycling. If you go to those places, sometimes they have the scrap metal that you can buy by the pound, and it's really cheap. It might be drop pieces from your local metal shop, or like just some scrap pieces that maybe somebody wanted to recycle, and you could buy that really cheap from places like that. They may be imperfect or a regular cut, but you can go ahead and use your MetalFab to clean them up, do some rust removal, and then use them for whatever project. Or just take a wire brush and a grinder like I usually do. The function of the air dryer. So what that's going to do is it's going to remove the moisture from the air, because think about you wouldn't want a bunch of steam from the air compressor. So it's going to be a very moist air, because the way the the air compressor compresses the air creates condensation. So you wouldn't want that condensation to be pushed through the line through your air nozzle. So then when the laser hits it or it hits the metal, it creates a bunch of steam, fogs up your lens, which would cause problems with your laser. You don't want that. So the air dryer is definitely, it's definitely critical for this. Oh, you're welcome, Jamie. I just thought about it, and I just actually got some metal from there the other day. So most machine shops around you too, if you're metal supply shops or your welding shops, they have these big breaks. As far as for cutting down, they usually charge a cut fee, but you can get, it's always cheaper to buy the 8-foot by 4-foot sheets and then just have them cut them down into the 2-foot by 2-foot sections. Or sometimes I get them into 2-foot by 4-foot sections. And then I just use the pass through, because sometimes I want bigger objects like a bigger flag or whatever. The cool thing you need to remember is it's not like wood or acrylic. If you have smaller sections, like 2 feet by 2 feet sections, you could just break your design up into multiple pieces, weld it together, use a grinder, paint it, and it looks the same as if it was all one piece to start. Tom, my suggestion, personally, for the value that you get with the xTool air compressor and air dryer as that combo unit, the 5+ horsepower compressor that it comes with, as far as the CFM that it provides, and that it goes up to 145 psi, that you're not really going to find that for that same price. And then you add an air dryer in. The cheaper air dryers out there, when I was looking at them before I got this one, you're looking at a couple $1,000s, like $2,000-$3,000 for the air dryer, air compressor kind of combos out there. So the xTool one's a value. I think the xTool one is around $1,600. So I mean, for that price, it definitely does the job and it does it well. So the air compressor is going to be a 220. However, they will have the air dryer available in the 120 or 220 options. So I realized I had this on my desk. So I did go ahead and this is actually one of the cool features because the MetalFab uses XCS also. I was able to cut this coin on the MetalFab out of just some aluminum. And then I threw the same coin right over in my F1 Ultra and did this depth map engraving. It came out pretty awesome. So I thought that was a cool thing. I didn't need to recreate the file or recreate the sizing. I just literally switched devices and went at it. So it cuts and cut blanks just like that. So I know I mentioned it earlier, but the thing I cannot suggest enough, this welding helmet here, I did look at other welding helmets on online, and they are a lot more money. And for anything that's laser safe, you could see, you could adjust the dimming, the timing, and all that right on here. And it does have the laser safe glass built in. It'll save your eyes if you're doing a bunch of welding. And I think they're $110 right now. If you're going to go ahead and purchase one of those, you can do that right on xTool's website. So Jamie, I wouldn't worry too much about the humidity. I don't always have the air conditioning on in here, and I live in like right outside of Nashville, so it's pretty wet here most of the year. And by wet, I mean just that humid that it's wet, especially during the summer. I don't have any dehumidifiers running in my shop. I just have a AC unit, a mini split. I have not cut any brass blanks with it yet because I haven't bought any sheets of brass. But I can show you something that I did cut. Kyler, can you go grab that dog that I cut? The dog display on our front display thing. It's a German Shepherd. So I did cut a really cool detailed photo of a dog the other day out of some brass, all the way at the end. My employee is going to go grab that real quick for me. So I did cut that out of brass the other day. So that's about 1 millimeter thick. And you could see the backside, there's absolutely no dross, no slag, nothing on it. I cut that out absolutely perfectly. And then just to show you another high detailed piece, I did cut this bison out of some carbon steel the other day. And you could see that's not even probably about 4 inches tall. And you could see all the detail in that bison head right there. So I'm not sure if that comes with the Kickstarter package. As far as I'm aware, it does not. Now, the Kickstarter, the goggles, it does come with a set of goggles, which I have over here. So it comes with these, and these are sufficient to protect your eyes when you're welding. It was still very bright for me to look at while I was welding. And given I'm going to be teaching it, my vision's kind of important to me. So I wanted to go ahead and get the mask just to be a little extra safe. So yeah, Tom, I could tell you that It does. The high humidity will affect your steel. Not as much as you'd think. I have done the rust removal on it, and I did that. I did this plate, I think Friday, and it's been sitting in the shop, and we don't even have it. We don't have any surface rust, and it had my paws all over it. So, and you can see that right there. That is just how it came off the machine. No cleanup. All right, well, it's 9 o'clock, so we're gonna go ahead and get this wrapped up. If y'all have any questions in the future, feel free to reach out to me. And if you guys wanted to schedule a one-on-one demo to ask some more questions or see some personalized kind of training, some one-on-one demo, you can do so on the xTool website. You can book a demo or a training with me. And if you wanted to book a training on any of the other lasers, you can also do so. And you could book with people all across the US with the xTool Squad program. There are a bunch of us in there, you know, some pretty good educated people in there to do some training. I just want to, Jacob, to answer your question, are there any welding curtains available that work with this wavelength? Yes, there are. There are none available from xTool. I did look into some. They were just very expensive, and given my shop is kind of, well, my shop, I don't have a ton of people walking around. So I only have me and my employees, so it was just everybody just wears their safety goggles when they're in shop kind of thing. If y'all have any questions, just feel free to reach out. And remember, so the prices do go up on this next week. If you have not purchased it yet, now's a great time. You can use this coupon, and then we'll save that extra $300 off the combo unit. And then next week they do go up $1,000 for the combo. And then if you're just getting the welder, it's $150 off additional just by using that code. Barber, you can claim your gift card by messaging xTool support or xTool. They'll be able to get a hold of you. I hope y'all had fun, and that's all. Thank y'all. Bye-bye.